On today's video, we're going to look at some new laws that are being implemented in Florida and try to understand if Florida is protecting its people or just the interest of big corporations. This particular law, which is now in effect in the state of Florida, to help builders be less liable for building houses that clearly aren't going to last. The time period that you have to file a lawsuit against that builder is now shortened. But moving forward, if you're buying a new construction in Florida, you should know that the builders are less liable than ever to guarantee that their new construction will be free from defects. Who is really benefiting from a law like this? And then there's the laxation spaces law. This is something straight out of a California textbook. Courthouses, they're going to have a place for women to safely breastfeed their children. Women have been breastfeeding children since the start of humanity. I think the vast majority of us understand that they need their privacy and a place to do it, but does it have to be a law for courthouses? Laws in Florida carry names like protection of children. This law specifically goes after live performances. There was one thing that happened in the state of Florida where in the Orlando area, they had found somebody who was underage working at a live entertainment center. But for some reason, the state of Florida jumped on this particular case. But when you talk about the safety of children in Florida, in Lehigh Acres, there's no sidewalks. Children have to walk on the roads. My bus stop was half a mile from my home with no street lights. Many times the pickup was before sunrise, which means like students were walking in the dark on unlighted streets. The street would also flood as high as 24 inches, which means not only were you walking through the dark, many times you were walking on flooded streets. The street, while being a dead end, had a roundabout, which is more than sufficient for a bus to turn. There's no doubt that the lack of infrastructure in Florida and the fact that many of the young population lives in areas that are unincorporated, maybe in Lee or Collier County, a lot of times these bus stops are completely dangerous. And despite the parents year after year making complaints about this situation, absolutely nothing has changed with these bus routes in over 20 years. So while on one end, laws are made with names like protecting our children, in reality, in Lee County, Florida, and Collier County, very little is actually being done to protect the children when they're trying to get on and off these buses, especially for unincorporated areas. But what is a priority in Lee County is creating a pilot program to address real estate title fraud, since so much of the fraud and misappropriation that happens in Florida originates in this county. In this case, people will literally sell your house to somebody else, pocket the money without you even knowing it, and they'll know if anything happens at the clerk of court with the property they own, which means if you now own real estate in Florida, you can sign up and the clerk of courts will have to let you know if somebody's trying to steal your property. Now, this law makes a lot of sense. What doesn't make sense is the fact that somebody else can sell your land or property and you not even know about it. Now, here's the catch. Anybody recording these properties has to have a government issued photo ID, and many of the people who currently own property don't have that, since there's been a lot of investors from other countries who have bought land in Lee County, Florida. And that is why there is a new law that will prevent people from other countries from buying real estate in Florida. But let's look more closely at this law. Of course, Chinese investors have been speculating on Southwest Florida's real estate market, and it really does not make sense for so many people who live halfway around the world to start to buy up real estate in Florida that they cannot physically appreciate. This type of blind investing really is not healthy for the state of Florida. I remember when I purchased and sold real estate in Lehigh Acres, which is in Lee County, Florida, I noticed that a lot of the buyers and sellers were Chinese, and it never made sense to me why somebody who doesn't live in the United States is buying properties that they cannot physically appreciate. Venezuelans. As we know, Venezuelans, about 500,000 of them have come to Florida. And of course, Cubans. At what point have Cubans and Venezuelans done anything to suggest that they have ill intent against military bases or any other type of things that are being stipulated in this law? It's almost a slap in the face, especially considering when the vast majority of Cubans actually voted for the person that signed this law. Because it seems like what a lot of Cubans say is that they're being used as toilet paper. When Miami, Florida is 70% Hispanic and you're going after the two largest Hispanic groups in that county, and when some other bigger agenda comes along, you're just toilet paper to them. But when they're done with you, you get flushed down the toilet. Are going to have to leave the state of Florida simply because laws like these that specifically mention their nationality. Take this House Bill 1205. This House Bill regulates the legal advertisement soliciting clients for personal injury against drug manufacturers, which means that from now on, a lawyer can no longer say, hey, this particular drug manufacturer may have hurt you. You can now sue them for that. Lawyers will no longer be allowed to warn the public that particular drug manufacturers are causing them harm. These pharmaceutical companies are making sure that the next time they want to push out another Oxycontin epidemic in the state of Florida, that lawyers won't be allowed to warn the people of the damages that they have caused. This is absolutely detrimental to the people of Florida. There's no sound way that you could argue with me that this law protects people in any other way. The only clear person being protected here is big pharmaceutical companies and being allowed to wreak havoc in the state of Florida, and nobody being able to raise a flag and say, hey, warning, this could kill you. After the pill mills and the fact like 7,000 people a year in Florida are dying from overdoses that was started thanks to big pharmaceutical companies that decided to push Oxycontin into Florida, why on earth would you allow a law protecting the pharmaceutical companies that are destroying the people? That makes absolutely no sense. Then there's laws that will allow people who have had violent crimes in the past to be able to enter rehab programs. Good luck to the people that work in those facilities. Then there's a law that's going to require adult parents to be responsible for any child that has autism, any type of mental or physical disability. Even though they're adults, you're still going to be responsible for them. I am all for taking care of the autistic, the disabled, people with Down syndrome, anybody who is disabled. I totally agree in protecting their rights. We all took care and we all made sure that these disabled people had the help they needed. We didn't need a lot of tells to do that. We simply knew that they were our responsibility. But there's definitely people who have autistic children, and once they turn 18 or they're mentally disabled, they turn them out into the streets, and that's a huge problem in Florida. And there's nothing that angers me more than seeing somebody who's mentally disabled young on the streets. And believe me, I see a lot of people like that. They move to Florida to retire. Their kids are autistic. When they turn 18, they throw them out in the streets, and then we end up with somebody who's young and disabled with mental illnesses on the streets. That creates homelessness, and it puts these people that are vulnerable in society in a very precarious place. But this isn't just a parent's responsibility. The state has a huge role in protecting these people's interests. And by placing the responsibility solely on the parents, the state of Florida can wash its hands and say, hey, this person's no longer our problem. This is your problem. Once somebody's disabled, autistic, handicapped, we can really see that somebody needs mental help. They're a victim. I have absolutely no problem with my tax dollars going to house and feed those people and make sure that they have not just enough to live, but that they too can live a comfortable lifestyle. So you guys know on my channel, I interview and help a lot of homeless people, meet them, get to talk to them. And every once in a while, I'll find a young person who is clearly just dumped on the streets, and they have mental problems. They have health concerns. It's not that they're not wanting to work or that they're lazy. It's just simply they have a lot of problems that were there present before they turned 18. I'm all for protecting the rights of these people. But what I don't understand is if now the state puts that responsibility solely on the parent, does that mean that the state of Florida is going to do absolutely nothing for these people? And is this going to discourage people with disabilities and children that are disabled from moving to the state of Florida if they know that they could be liable for any future needs of that person, even if they were to move out of the state? who exactly knows? It also seems like this could be used as a tool from the state of Florida to discourage people who have children that are autistic and disabled from moving to the state. And again, these are things that on paper sound like they're pretty, but when you start to think about the actual implications and application of the law, it seems like the state of Florida is simply washing its hands and saying, hey, this isn't a social issue, this is the parents' fault. This is a law that in the courts could be good for a lot of people who need it, but other times this law can definitely be used by the state to unburden itself from a lot of people. State Bill 1718 has been the most controversial bill in Florida for a long time, and while most people think it's a good thing to get rid of illegal immigrants, the problem with these laws is that they're going to hurt our tourism. People who legally vacation in Florida, they're just from other countries, they're not breaking the law, they're not overstaying their passports or anything like that. They're just visiting Florida. We get people here from all over the world. Just in the last week, I'm going to assume she's from Japan. I've met Laotians, Cambodians, Filipinos. I met an entire family from Uganda who was vacationing in Florida. At the end of the day, these people who vacation in Florida legally, they're not breaking the law, they're just people on vacation, are now afraid to come to Florida because these laws are going to make them feel like they're being treated unjustly or like they're being profiled. So while we have these beaches in cities like Sarasota, Miami, Tampa, cities that people throughout the entire world want to visit, cities like Orlando, these are places that people throughout the entire world want to visit, these Florida locations. And our tourism is dependent on these people, especially South Florida during the summertime is dependent on international tourism. When the prices drop, people from other countries come to Florida, and 30 to 60% of the tourism that you'll see on Florida beaches, not locals, tourism comes from Latin America. I know my subscribers that live along the Florida Panhandle have no idea what I'm talking about because you guys don't have international airports. You guys don't have international tourism. But when you look at Tampa, when you look at Orlando, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Southwest Florida, we get a lot of international tourism during the summer, which is our slow season in South Florida, completely different. North Florida and South Florida are very different. That's why a lot of my subscribers from North Florida are scratching their heads at some of the things I say, because they don't understand the tourism in South Florida is very different than the tourist seasons in North Florida. I'm not in favor of illegal people coming into the United States. I've never said that. You guys have assumed that because you're not listening to what I'm saying. People don't listen to what you're saying. They just try to perceive what your ideology is and then judge you based upon that. I don't believe in illegal immigrants coming to Florida and working illegally. I think everybody that works in Florida should have a legal avenue so that they're working towards paying taxes so we can help the state in many ways. I've never said that I support people coming here illegally. Not only that, but I've done my part on the internet to warn people who come to the United States illegally of the real situation they're going to face, not the American dream that's a lie that they're being pushed. I've been telling the truth about living in America. I've been telling them the truth about their legal status, which a lot of people haven't been doing. They're telling these people a dream that doesn't exist. I've been telling people what it's actually like when you come to the United States and live here illegally. Instead of trying to label people, if you listen to what they say, you could learn a little bit better about the problems at hand. What would the Statue of Liberty say today? Give us your poor, you're tired, so we can deport them? You're not more American than me. America was founded by immigrants. America was founded by pilgrims who were fleeing an oppressive government. That is exactly what I am. Americans are doing the same exact thing to Hispanics as the English were doing to the Irish. All right, everybody, that is today's angry rant at the world from Jose. I hope you guys like it and you guys participate in the comment section. A lot of people are trying to get people to move out of California because of politics. A lot of people are trying to get people to leave Florida because of politics. You don't leave a place because of politics. You leave a place when your family's safety is compromised and it's no longer the best place for you to be. Right now, for me, Florida is the best place to be. It's where I grew up. Everything that I know is here. I'm making a very comfortable living. There's 50 other states out there, and each state has their own laws and regulations. Some states are going to have laws you like. Some states are going to have laws you don't like. I'm not trying to tell you that you shouldn't move to Florida. What I'm trying to tell you is understand that this state right now isn't interested in protecting the people. It's more interested in protecting the companies that are making money off the people. And if you don't believe me, here's a perfect example about how they don't care about people. The only thing they care about is big companies, big corporations.